What are you talking about, King? Batista never rode anyone's coattails. He's his own man. He earned his spot. And Flair and Triple H are two of the greats, no doubt about it. But Batista proved he's at their level when he beat Triple H for the World Heavyweight title. When I look at Triple H, all I see is lost opportunities. He's so talented and so intelligent that he could have made such a positive impact on the business. Instead, he decided that he'd rather win at all cost without any sense of honor or decency. That might be true, King, but Kane also takes a perverse pleasure in inflicting as much pain as possible on anyone who steps in the ring with him. How can having a superstar who tries to end the careers of his opponents be anything but bad for the business? You can't be serious, King. Booker T's a man who runs his mouth and then runs away when someone looks to shut it up for him. He's a coward and a bully who will take any shortcut he can to advance his career, and to hell with everybody else. I'd never try to do that. There's no doubt that Triple H has reached a level in this business that few others have, if anyone at all. But that doesn't excuse his actions. What good is it to be the best superstar on the roster if you're the worst human being on the face of the earth? I think everyone should get what they deserve, King. Nitro deserves to be rewarded for his athletic ability. But if he keeps walking around like he's God's gift to sports entertainment, I think he deserves to be proven wrong. One or two, there's a reason they call him the Phenom, King. He's been one of the most dominant WWE superstars for his entire career. He came in at the top, and he stayed there ever since. I bet I can help you out there, King. He's arrogant. He's selfish and self-centered. He'll sacrifice anyone and anything to get what he wants. He's completely untrustworthy. Or maybe it's because the Edgeheads turned on Edge right about the same time he turned on them, King. I think they do a pretty good job of making themselves heard, but with those boos instead of cheers now. All right, how about the fact that he's a multiple-time tag team and cruiserweight champion, a former European and hardcore champion, and one of the biggest jackasses to set foot in a WWE ring? Boy, you'll go to any lengths to defend your position, no matter how wrong you are. I think anyone who took a look at Kane would realize he's a menace who shouldn't be allowed out in public, much less a WWE ring. I respect the fact that he took responsibility for his actions and decided not to continue down that road. But I can't say that the way he's chosen to live his life since has overly impressed me either. They may have taught Orton everything he knows, King, but I don't think they taught him everything they know. Orton may think he's got nothing left to learn, but he could find out the hard way here tonight that that's just not the case. King, you're as crazy as a pet coon. Did you happen to notice how many times Cena's worn gold around his waist? Seems to me like he's got no problem putting his money where his mouth is. Well, if that truly were the case, I don't think he'd be so concerned with everyone else trying to overshadow him. I think JBL's a great deal less confident in his abilities than he lets on. Not to take away from the Hardys' multiple tag team title reigns, but Jeff has also enjoyed great solo success as a European, hardcore, and intercontinental champion. And I have no problem with that. That's an admirable attitude. But JBL doesn't just try to improve himself. He spends a lot of time and effort trying to sabotage everyone else who might challenge him. For the life of me, I'll never understand why Mark Henry resorts to such brutal tactics. He's already the world's strongest man. For goodness sakes, what's he got left to prove? He certainly has, but quite frankly, I'm perfectly fine with him being on the Smackdown roster. I prefer superstars who appreciate what they've got, not ones that blame others for what they don't have. Oh, I am, King. I'm looking at one of the most awesome forces I've ever seen in a WWE ring. And I think the dead man's going to remind everyone tonight why they call him the Phenom. He's been a world champion. He's a former Intercontinental and United States champion. He's a WWE Hall of Famer. The Rowdy One has seen, and trust me, has done it all. You couldn't be more wrong, King. I've always found Batista to be extremely intelligent. You don't often see anyone put anything past him in the ring or outside it. I don't know how you can say that, King. Cena has dedicated himself to entertaining these fans, and quite frankly, I find him to have more character than many so-called respectable superstars. I think you're selling him short, King. Yes, Matt Hardy has faced adversity. Yes, he's been beaten before. But by God, everyone who steps in the ring with him knows they've been in a fight. Look at Shawn Michaels. The future Hall of Famer has overcome so much adversity in his career. But the Heartbreak Kid's got more heart than anyone I've ever seen in this business. This match is going to continue until someone's completely debilitated. And considering the resiliency of these superstars, that's not going to be easy. Mick built his legacy by destroying some of the biggest names in the business, in WCW, in ECW, and of course, right here in the WWE.
Listen to you, JR. Honor, decency. You sound like you're 100 years old. Triple H realized early on that winning is the only thing that matters. That's why he's the cerebral assassin. I'm so disgusted with Batista, JR. He could have stayed with Triple H and Ric Flair in Evolution and continued to ride the coattails of two of the greatest legends in this business. Instead, he threw it all away.
Kenny Dykstar's first WWE appearance was with that all-male cheerleading squad, the Spirit Squad. Not that that's a bad thing, yes? No, you don't. And you don't get there on a fluke. But Batista's the real deal. And that's why it wouldn't surprise me one bit to see him inducted after a long and distinguished career. King, I'm sorely tempted to say something about the pot and the kettle. But instead, I'll say that I think Shawn Michaels is like a fine wine. He's only improved with age.
Kane's never going to be up for the Humanitarian of the Year award, JR, but I think that's exactly what makes him such a great superstar. He'll stop at nothing to get what he wants, and that makes for some great competition.
It's an unusual treat to see the bodacious Melina in active competition. She's typically known as the brains behind superstars like Johnny Nitro. Gregory Helm's attitude makes me sick. After all the support he's gotten from the fans over his career, to turn his back on him now just turns my stomach. It doesn't get any better than this. The Superstars of Raw coming to you live from Reading, Pennsylvania. Good old JR Jim Ross here with my broadcast partner, Jerry the King Lawler. They sure do, King, and with good reason. No one puts on a performance like the Raw Superstars, and that's why Raw is the #1 brand in all of sports entertainment. I'm not taking anything away from Orton's accomplishments, King, but no one's got a higher opinion of him than Orton himself. Sometimes I wish he'd just shut his mouth and show us what he's got.
That's not true, JR. I'm sure this arena is just full of edgeheads tonight. You might not hear them cheering, but that's probably because they're in awe of the fact that they're watching their favorite superstar.
Boy, JBL sure is a piece of work. He's got every advantage in the world: money, talent, athletic ability, and it's still not enough for him. Good Lord, there's no call for that kind of vicious assault. I don't care how important this match is. That could have resulted in serious and permanent injury. How can you say that, King? Matt Hardy's a phenomenal superstar who's accomplished a great deal in his career, including multiple tag team championship runs.
You know, JR, I racked my brains trying to think of a single flaw in Triple H, and I couldn't come up with anything. It's like he says, he really is the only diamond in this business.
I highly doubt that, King. We've seen Rey Mysterio get in the ring with some of the biggest, meanest superstars in all of sports entertainment, and he's won more than his fair share of matches against them.
You say that like it's a bad thing, JR. I think it's great. No one forces a superstar to get into the ring against Kane, and if they aren't up to the challenge, they're probably not cut out for the WWE.
Boy, what an incredible competitor Rey Mysterio is. I'd have to say that pound for pound, he might be the most exciting superstar on the SmackDown roster.
I think Triple H might be the greatest superstar of his generation. I think that in the future, superstars are going to talk about Triple H the way superstars from Triple H's generation talk about Ric Flair.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tacoma, Washington, where the superstars of Raw are ready to deliver excitement as only they can. Jim Ross here with Jerry the King Lawler. That's for damn sure. And that's why I don't think there can be any doubt in anyone's mind that the superstars of the WWE are the greatest athletes in the world. Not on SmackDown or anywhere else. There's nothing else out there that can come close to the excitement of seeing the Raw superstars perform live. If you want to zip your lips for a few minutes, King, I won't complain. But don't expect me to show Chris Masters any more respect than he's shown to the WWE superstars and fans. SmackDown's had its fair share of exciting matchups, King, but I'm inclined to agree with you. There's nothing like watching the Raw superstars perform live. Will you stop it? He's 165 pounds and 5'6". He might be on the smaller end of the spectrum, but that doesn't diminish his ability. I am old-fashioned, King, and damn proud of it. And if Triple H is the future of this business, I'm perfectly happy to be stuck in the past. Thank you very much. No question, King. The Raw superstars never fail to create history wherever they perform, and these Calgary fans are going to leave here tonight with some amazing memories. Look at this. He just drove that knee right into the solid steel ring post, and it doesn't take many of those to destroy an opponent's vertical base. I'd say that Shane McMahon must be absolutely crazy to do some of the things he does. But considering his last name, I think insanity is pretty much a given. It's what you get beat like when you're in the middle of a slobber knocker. And if you don't have the guts to stick around, you might run like a scalded dog with a case of the limber tail. It's hard not to respect Tommy Dreamer. He's never given less than 100%, whether he's competing in front of 50 fans or 50,000 fans. I know that barbecue-loving Mick Foley outside the ring, and I've seen him in action inside the ring, and I swear to you, it's almost like he's two different people.
That's just your perspective, JR. But history's written by the winners. I'd change my tune if I were you, unless, of course, you want to go down in the books as being stupid enough to talk trash about Triple H. He's just protecting his spot, JR. You forget, JBL has a lot more to lose than you or me. He's a legend in this business. Heck, he's a legend in business, period.
Well, you could call it confidence, but I call it cockiness. And as far as I'm concerned, his daddy should have taken him to the woodshed once or twice more than he did. The Game and Flair are no strangers to championship gold, but Orton won it younger than either one of them. And don't think he didn't let it go straight to his head either.
There's that jealousy again, JR. You're lucky you're on Raw, because if you were on SmackDown, I'm sure JBL would have used all of that wealth and influence he has to get you fired by now.
And as you've said so many times before, and I mean so many times before, winning matches is really all that matters when it comes down to the final analysis. I think you've got a selective memory there, Kingfish. I seem to remember Triple H and Ric Flair turning on Orton and knocking some of the cockiness out of him when they did it. I don't even know if you can use the word monster to describe Kane anymore. He's become so twisted and so evil that it almost sounds like a compliment. No doubt about it, King. As far as I'm concerned, any WWE match has that potential. Everyone on the roster is an accomplished wrestler. And the covering on that turnbuckle has been removed, King. The steel is exposed, and it's not going to do the superstar any favors. I've got all the respect in the world for the Guerreros, but if I were them, I'd make sure that his invitation to the family reunion got lost in the mail. The biggest mistake you can make with the Sandman is to underestimate him. He's got one of the best strategic minds of any competitor I've seen. I'm pretty sure a psychologist would have a field day analyzing Mrs. Foley's baby boy, but I'm not so sure Mick would take too kindly to that.
I'm so happy that we have a superstar like Edge on the Raw roster. Someone who sets goals for himself and doesn't let anything stop him from reaching them. He's a great role model for young fans.
I think it's a damn shame that someone who's worked as hard as Booker T has to overcome a checkered past would turn out to be such an A1 jerk in the end. There's not an ounce of quit in any WWE superstar, but the human body has its limits, and they may have been reached here in this match. Well, I'm glad that Nitro's so successful with the ladies, but last I knew, that wasn't the way to rise through the ranks of the WWE. I'll do that again. I certainly question some of Candace's techniques from time to time, but there's no denying that she's got a fierce competitive spirit and some serious athletic ability. Man alive, you talk about physical dominance. He picked up his opponent effortlessly and used that security barricade as a weapon. You can't question the heart of any WWE superstar. But there comes a point where you're just not able to physically continue. Come on, King. You've watched Edge as much as I have, and you've seen the things he's pulled. Talk about someone whose heart is as cold as the other side of the pillow.
Now, come on, JR. I'm not saying that the dead man doesn't have one or two impressive achievements to his name. I just think he's taken too seriously for a grown man who dresses like it's Halloween every day.
He certainly is. Terry Funk's a true pioneer of sports entertainment, and it's a real treat to see Funk in the squared circle tonight. And that's not something that's lost on these fans. Regardless of how you feel about ECW, it's almost impossible not to respect Tommy Dreamer. It's downright scary is what it is. We've seen Mark Henry absolutely destroy his opponents, and I hope we're not going to see more of the same here tonight. And there it is, a vicious smashing of the knee against that solid steel ring post. That's one way to take the wheels out from under an opponent. I don't use the word evil lightly, but that's what comes to mind when I see the delight Mark Henry takes in destroying his fellow superstars. And that doesn't make it any better. A vicious grinding forearm right across the face. The pain must be excruciating. And I can only imagine that that's a lot easier said than done. Khali must take up at least a quarter of the ring as it is. Mickie James has held the women's championship. There's no doubting her ability. But from where I sit, she is crazier than a pet coon. And I wouldn't expect any less from them, King. Like them or not, you've got to respect the tenacity of each and every WWE superstar. You certainly can't, especially if you're the referee. You know it's only a matter of time before this Jezebel tries to take advantage in this matchup. Tommy Dreamer has shed years of blood, sweat, and tears, sacrificing his own body for the sake of ECW. There aren't many superstars as diversely talented as John Cena. He's as good in the ring as he is on the microphone, and that's saying something. I'm not even going to hazard a guess, King. These superstars are so unpredictable that that would be just about the most foolish thing I could possibly do. Maybe not, but I wish he'd lose some of that viciousness and arrogance. It's just a damn shame that such an accomplished superstar should be such a jackass. But at the same time, King, no one makes it up the ladder without pushing themselves to the very limit. It's a very fine line to walk. JBL's a financial wizard and a huge success in business. But what he strikes me as the kind of man who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. There's no doubt that Kenny Dykstra doesn't have a great upside, but he also has a tendency to take the unfair advantage whenever he gets the chance. I tell you, King, I've got no earthly idea how these superstars can maintain this intensity week after week after week.
I don't have any earthly idea what you're talking about, King. I think Cena sets a great example for our fans and superstars alike.
I've never been accused of being cool by Carlito or anyone else, King. Quite frankly, I'm not sure I'd know cool if it bit me on my Oklahoma Sooner backside. I'm not a fan of Gregory Helms' attitude these days, but I have to admit that he's been a dominant superstar in SmackDown's cruiserweight division.
Torrie Wilson, of course, has appeared on the cover of Playboy magazine not once, but twice. I'm sure you've picked up your issues.
I guess that's lucky for you then, King, because after hearing some of the lines you've used on the Divas over the years, I'm not sure imagination is your strong suit.
Yeah, and the business has done a lot for him. Michaels tries to come off as a goody two-shoes, but when it comes right down to it, he's as much of an egotist as anyone else in the business. Oh, come on, JR. John Cena's a thug. You know it. I know it. And all of these people know it. It makes me sick that he's allowed to be a WWE superstar.
No question about it, King. Every superstar on the roster has had to make more sacrifices than any other professional athlete I know.
He's as ruthless in the ring as he is in the boardroom. Try asking the man for a raise. Mr. McMahon will do whatever it takes to win.
I know that, King, but I think he's completely ignorant when it comes to things that you can't put a price on. The things like honor, respect, and sportsmanship. Very few superstars have so completely dominated their opponents the way this young stud Lashley has done in his career thus far.
You're absolutely right, Einstein. A 6-time WWE champion, 3-time Royal Rumble winner, Intercontinental champion, King of the Ring.
I know exactly what you mean, King. Some of the things this kid puts his body through are so far and above and beyond the call of duty that it's hard to watch.
You know, JR, HBK might be a living legend and all, but I wish he'd just keep his mouth shut and let his actions in the ring speak for him. He's never met a microphone he didn't like.
Sabu is one of the most dangerous human beings on the planet, and he's put himself through hell representing ECW. I don't know how the WWE or the American Dental Association can allow a monster like Snitsky to compete.
Boy, you talk about being beat like a government mule. I don't know how much more of this a human being can be expected to endure. This Lashley is an absolute monster. We've seen him decimate just about every opponent he's ever stepped into the ring against.
So do I. You get the feeling this freak of nature Khali isn't here just to win matches. He wants to end careers.
You know, JR, everyone goes on and on about how great The Undertaker is, but I think he's overrated. It takes more than black lights and some dry ice to impress me.
He calls himself SmackDown's MVP, but I think Montel Vontavious Porter is all mouth.
I know you're always complaining about Randy Orton's ego, JR, but let's face it. Orton was the youngest world heavyweight champion of all time. I think he's earned the right to be a little arrogant.
If I live to be 100, I'll never understand why they leave so many damn weapons under the ring. It's almost like they want the superstars to use them on each other.
Well, if you ask me, a victory is message enough. But Mark Henry seems to enjoy dishing out senseless brutality.
A vicious slam of the head against that barricade. And don't let that light padding fool you, folks. That still hurts like hell. Hey, Helms is a very talented young man. You can't take that away from him. I just wish he had the kind of attitude that allowed me to feel good about his success. As far as it takes, King, we've seen them put their bodies on the line time and time again. And I'm sure tonight will be no different.
He's a multiple-time heavyweight champion, King. In my book, once you wear that title around your waist, you've made it in this business. How about a perfect record at WrestleMania, King? How about being a multiple-time WWE champion? Does that impress you? If you're talking about his initials, I agree. If you're saying he's a most valuable anything, That remains to be proven, in my view.
My God! Whether you love him or you hate him, you can't help but be impressed with someone who puts his body on the line like that.
How can you say that, JR? Edge is one of the most exciting and dynamic superstars on the Raw roster, and I hope you don't drive him to SmackDown with the way you slander him.
I'd like to see a clean victory by a superstar with a lot of heart and a lot of intensity who puts on the best performance possible for the fans, King.
Hey, I'm not oblivious to the Nature Boy's casual relationship with the rules, but it's a little late in the game to hope that this leopard's going to change his spots.
I am certain, every day of his life, there's nothing a superstar loves more than stepping between those ropes and proving himself against the greatest superstars in the world.
Finley's had a long and distinguished career in this business, and I swear he can still go better than superstars half his age.
I feel like we shouldn't even be talking during this match, JR. We should just silently admire the masterpiece, like we were looking at a sculpture in a museum or something.
Listen, if Montel Bontavious Porter was half as good as he says he is, the kid would be world champion by now.
I know what you'd prefer, King, but the simple fact of the matter is that this young woman is several sandwiches short of a picnic. This is even more painful than it looks, folks. These ring ropes are just steel cables with a very thin coating. You're watching Raw Action coming to you live from Boise, Idaho. Jim Ross here with Jerry the King Lawler. And King, take a look at these Boise fans. That might not be the most sportsmanlike move, but I get the feeling that sportsmanship is about the furthest thing from his mind right now. We are just minutes away from Raw Action, coming to you live from Trenton, New Jersey. Jim Ross here with Jerry the King Lawler, and what a show we have tonight.
No doubt about it. You don't see many superstars with the ability to physically dominate their opponents the way Marcus Corvon can. Dreamer isn't in this business for the money or the fame, my friend. He's here because he loves what he does, and he loves these fans.
My God, what an impact! A human skull slammed against those unforgiving steel ring steps. And it looks like he's going to do it one leg at a time. That's the sort of strategy you need to use when you're the smaller competitor. You're not wrong, King. They compete every week until they are physically incapable of continuing. There's no off-season in the WWE. My God, look at this brutal assault, grinding his opponent's face into the steel mesh of the cage wall. You can't argue with his strategy, King. When you're the smaller dog in the fight, you've got to find ways to bring your opponent down to your level. That's your opinion, King, but if Lashley's career thus far has been any indication, I'd say he's got an excellent chance of victory in this match.
How can you not? The passion and dedication of Tommy Dreamer are virtually unmatched in all of sports entertainment.
He's certainly not stopped by conscience, that's for sure. Kane will crush anyone and anything that stands between him and his objective. And the thing that gets me is that he doesn't need to take these kind of risks. His last name is McMahon, for crying out loud. He's set for life.
Wait a minute. You're looking at her smile? What the heck is wrong with you, Uncle Jerry? Never mind. I think I know the answer to that one. I wouldn't say that. The Sandman might not have much in the way of an amateur background, but he can get the job done with his bare hands.
Welcome to Raw and Boomer Sooner, everybody. This is Jim Ross here with Jerry the King Lawler, and I couldn't be happier about coming home to Oklahoma City tonight. I couldn't agree more, King. We certainly appreciate the support of these great Phoenix fans, and I personally guarantee that they're going to get more than their money's worth tonight.
You know, I hope the WWE chairman doesn't stop too suddenly, or your head might wind up stuck in a very uncomfortable place.
Maybe so, King, but any superstar who earns himself a spot at WrestleMania in his rookie year is one to watch as far as I'm concerned. A big Raw welcome to all our fans here in Phoenix, Arizona, and around the world. This is good old JR Jim Ross here with Jerry the King Lawler. Greetings, everybody, from the Great White North. I'm Jim Ross, here with Jerry the King Lawler, and this is Raw, live from Toronto.
It means that Punk has decided to enjoy life without the use of drugs or alcohol, King, and it's a choice I respect for him. Well, I reckon there's a lot to be jealous of. He's the billionaire chairman of the most powerful sports entertainment company in history. And that speed, combined with Corvan's overpowering strength, has led to the downfall of many a superstar.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Raw Action, coming to you live from Omaha, Nebraska. Jim Ross here with Jerry the King Lawler.
The alpha male is an incredibly well-rounded superstar, and that makes it hard for his opponents to find a weak spot to exploit.
And they got an eyeful right there, King. A vicious slam of the head into that thinly padded security barricade. My God, right into the ring post. I'd be surprised if that superstar has any feeling left in that arm after that. I don't think it would be too hard, King. I've heard she's followed lots of people home, and most of them wound up filing restraining orders against her.
I sure did, and what a fighter he was. Reportedly, 103-1 with 102 knockouts.
Okay, how can you say that, King? He's turned his back on his fans, and he doesn't care about anyone but himself. That's a time-tested method of inflicting excruciating pain on your opponent, and it's only gotten more brutal with age. The idea that Triple H might potentially become a role model to the next generation turns my stomach, King. I hope to hell you're wrong. Whether they're in America, in Canada, or anywhere else in the world, the Raw superstars never fail to deliver the greatest show in sports entertainment. Neither can I, King, and I know these Raw superstars can't either. They're ready to go out and show these fans why Raw is the greatest brand in sports entertainment. He stirs up some very complex emotions, that's for sure. No matter how you feel about him, you got to respect Roddy Piper.
Whoa. Hold on there, JR. I know you and the game have some personal history with each other, but that's no excuse to try to diminish his accomplishments.
And the turnbuckle covering has been removed. There's nothing protecting that superstar from the exposed steel of the turnbuckle. I'll tell you what, whether you love him or hate him, you've got to respect the risk that Shane McMahon takes every time he sets foot in the ring. Is there any superstar in WWE who can go toe-to-toe with that man, The Undertaker? I don't think there is.
That's true. The world's strongest man is a terrifying human being, and he's capable of seriously injuring his opponents. And that charisma not only took The Rock to the very top of sports entertainment, it also allowed him to take Hollywood by storm.
It's great to see, King. I've been looking forward to this match for a long time, and I'm glad to see that it's not a disappointment. Finley hails from the Irish Isles, and I got to think that when they coined the term Fighting Irish, they had this lad in mind.
Like him or not, you have to admit that Sabu's made a reputation for himself by never giving less than 100%.
I agree with you 100%. Whenever you put abilities of this caliber in a match together, it just gets better and better.
Well, you know what they say, JR. Pride goes before a fall. And from the looks of things, John Cena's got a heck of a fall ahead of him.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, King. Cena's got some impressive accomplishments to his credit. I think he's got every right to be proud.
The Sandman is an ECW original, and in many ways is the perfect representation of that brand.
You can say that again, King. This capacity crowd has given us a great welcome, and I'm sure Raw superstars will show their appreciation for that. Oh, absolutely, King. I don't have to like everyone on the roster to acknowledge that they've all worked long and hard to master their craft.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and welcome to Raw, coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C.
I'll tell you what, it seems like ever since young Gregory Helms left Raw, his attitude has just gotten worse and worse.
You're not the only one. Mick Foley is not an easy superstar to watch, but he's even harder to take your eyes off of.
And anytime you can't even defend yourself against blows like that, it doesn't speak well for your odds of winning the match. Drop chest first directly onto that thinly padded security barrier. That could have broken a rib or three.
The impressive Johnny Nitro has certainly proven himself as a tag team competitor as well as a singles competitor. Well, I have to admit, the only man on Wall Street with a cowboy hat, JBL, is looking pretty good out there. What is going through his mind in this match?
It certainly doesn't, King. A flurry of unanswered blows raining down upon this defenseless superstar. There's an awful lot of pride on the line here, King. No one in that ring wants to have to go back to the locker room as a loser. And that's why these matches are considered career shorteners, King. The entire cage itself is one big weapon.
Not to take anything away from Booker's accomplishments, but I've seen superstars with twice the credentials do half the boasting. I know Montel Vontavious Porter calls himself SmackDown's MVP, but I don't see it. Kelly certainly is a beautiful young woman, but I'm sure you wouldn't have anything to do with a ECW Vixen now, would you?
I've complained about Nitro's attitude, that's true. But that's no reflection on his athletic ability, which is considerable in my view. There's no love lost between these competitors, that's for sure. If looks could kill, somebody would be pushing up daisies right now. No one's ever going to confuse Candace with a mat tactician, but there's more to sports entertainment than knowing 100 different holes. My gosh! Chest first, right into the security barricade. That's a move that can end a match quick. Man, would you look at the size and the speed of Umaga? I've never seen a superstar that big move so quickly.
Simple, JR. Kane is natural selection in action. He weeds out the weaklings on the roster so that only the strongest superstars remain.
And that's probably because he's damn good at it. He spent his whole life fighting, and every time he gets into that ring, he puts on a clinic. And calling them ropes is a bit of a misnomer. They're actually steel cables. I can't even imagine the pain. They'll go as long as they need to, King. And if they can't, they won't be having their arms raised after the match. That's for damn sure.
I was sorry to see Gregory Helms leave Raw, but there's no denying that it was the right career move for him. You've seen the way he's completely dominated SmackDown's cruiserweight division, JR.
Good grief! There's a reason that's one of the most feared finishing moves in all of sports entertainment.
Good grief! Even when it's covered, being driven headfirst into that turnbuckle isn't a very pleasant experience.
That's smart strategy, JR. It's a lot easier to destroy just one part of your opponent's body than it is to destroy the whole thing.
Boy, Booker T will tell you how great he is until your dadgum ears fall off. But quite frankly, I'd rather see him put up or shut up.
I don't want to take anything away from the Masterpiece's accomplishments, but don't you find that his attitude leaves you feeling a little nauseous? I don't think there's another superstar who can get under the skin of the fans and his opponents like Ravishing Rick Rude. A triple jump moonsault. If there's another superstar who can make that look half as good, I'll eat my black hat.
Luck has nothing to do with it, King. This young man is strong, he's fast, and he's got more power than the electric company. It's not easy to watch, but using the ring against your opponent is a brutal but effective strategy. And I don't care how tough you are, after going a few rounds with a Samoan bulldozer, not getting up must start to seem like a pretty good idea.
We've seen that time and time again from the man with the yellow teeth. And we're seeing that here tonight in this match. That seems highly unlikely to me. Jeff isn't one to let his fans down by giving less than 100%. Look at this power. The 7'3" Khali lifted his opponent right off the mat by the throat.
No WWE superstar ever wants to admit they've got their limits, But when you've been getting hammered like a railroad spike all match, you don't have much of a choice.
I don't know how great it is, King, but it's a tried and true method for wearing down your opponent quickly, that's for sure.
Well, my friend, you do have years of experience. I'm talking years and years and years.
You're probably right about that, King. We've seen this kid put his body on the line time and again, and we might just see it here again tonight.
I don't think I've ever seen a superstar as intense as the suicidal, homicidal, genocidal Sabu.
You're damn right it could. It could get bowling shoe ugly. And that's what this business is all about. It's not ballet, you know. Well, folks, I know this isn't ballet, but this just isn't right. This could result in a serious, permanent injury. Good Lord! Listen to the sound of flesh and bone impacting off those steel steps. Ladies and gentlemen, a big raw welcome from Cheese Country, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Jim Ross here with Jerry the King Lawler.
Well, when you get into the ring against a man who calls himself the dirtiest player in the game, you should know what you're getting into. No matter how long Stone Cold Steve Austin is away from the squared circle, he's as popular as ever when he returns.
Simple. A monster like Snitsky makes the rest of the roster kick it up a notch. You can't just go through the motions when you're in a match with a guy who wants to rip your head off.
Well, that right there should do it. Driving the head repeatedly into those steel ring steps will do a number on anyone. They sure don't, King. New Yorkers don't impress easily, but there's no doubt in my mind that the Raw superstars are more than up to the task. Oh, he's a terrific role model, all right. Edge is a real humanitarian, a guy who would just as soon sell you out as look at you.
And for him to have to give that up only underscores just how hard this business can be on a superstar's body. For over a decade, WWE fans have been thrilled by the daredevil antics of Jeff Hardy.
Well, there's a big difference between seeing a monster in a movie and knowing that a real-life monster like Kane is walking the earth, King. Shane McMahon is a cocky rich boy, but I have to admit, he's never been afraid to put his money where his mouth is.
Oh, so you've moved up from schoolgirls to teachers. I guess we could call that maturity.
I can't imagine anything more shocking than seeing a human being buried alive, King. I've got no idea how you can top that. I've had many opportunities to see Carlito up close and in person, and I have to tell you, I'm impressed with what this kid brings to the table. It certainly can, King, and quite honestly, I couldn't blame any superstar for not being able to continue after that. You might be right, King. Of course, the Raw superstars always seem to find a way to outdo themselves every week, and that shouldn't be a surprise. The spirit may be willing, but the flesh is weak. I don't think any human being could keep this up for long in that condition.
Seeing this hideous freak Snitsky in action sends a chill all the way up my Oklahoma spine. And it would have been 103. But after knocking his opponent out, he was disqualified for not going to a neutral corner.
I won't argue with you about Cena's mic skills. He sure can't talk a good game. But when it comes right down to it, I don't think he can back it up.
Redding has come alive for the superstars of Raw, no doubt about it. And I know the Raw superstars won't disappoint them either. These superstars are in rough shape. Fatigue has set in, and I think this match could be over before you know it.
I know what you mean, JR. I don't even know if Umaga understands the whole concept of winning a match. I think he just hits his opponent until they don't get up anymore.
I'll grant that he's got some athletic ability, but as far as charisma goes, his attitude leaves a lot to be desired.
Well, that sounds like your problem, JR, not his. Me, I like his new attitude. I'm glad he finally got serious about his WWE career.
Say what you will about Sabu. I don't think I've ever seen a performer who takes his opponents to the extreme like he does.
No, there are some things that should just never be allowed, no matter the circumstances, and that's one of them. Whether you love him or hate him, there's no denying that Roddy Piper is one of the great legends of our business. That arm has been targeted for destruction, and the ring post is being used quite effectively to that end.
You say that like it's a good thing. I wish Henry would focus more on winning matches and less on ending careers.
Not if they have their way, King. Everything they came in here with tonight is going to be left in that ring, mark my words. And there it is, a vicious forearm ground right across the face. Look at the agonized expression. I think we're beginning to see the effects of this very tough, very physical matchup on these contestants. My God, let me tell you, when a wooden table meets flesh and bone, the table wins.
I'll tell you, JR, it's rough to get to a point in a match where you want to keep going, but you just don't have anything left. And I think that's what's happening here. Well, if that's true, it's just a matter of jealousy. And I think that's pretty sad, coming from two men who have more than 25 world title reigns between them.
My God, what a diving leg drop. He drove his entire body weight down across his opponent. I guess I can't argue with that, King. I just wonder if they'll be able to settle their differences in this match, or if it's going to wind up bigger than that. Head first into the turnbuckle. But once wasn't enough. How much longer can this go on?
I was just going to say that until you interrupted me. Now I'm just hoping that I haven't lost Michael Cole's phone number.
I'm a Raw man through and through, but I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't love to have a superstar like Rey Mysterio on the roster. Well, spring break only comes once a year, but Raw brings the excitement with it wherever we go, and tonight is no exception.
That's a pretty safe bet. I doubt we'll ever see another superstar in our lifetimes like the legendary Hitman.
It sure does. But I just hope these superstars can settle their differences in the ring and leave it at that.
No comment, compadre. Believe me, I have no desire to get on Mr. McMahon's bad side again. Well, you know, once I dropped a bowling ball to my foot, and I screamed like a pig under a gate. That's about as close as I've ever come to a shout-out.
No, don't tell me. This is too much. These superstars will stop at nothing to win this match. Upside-down head scissors. That's a tremendous display of athleticism right there by this lovely diva.
Force of nature? More like freak of nature, if you ask me. The fact that Batista even considers himself a main eventer is ridiculous.
What a phenomenon is the animal Batista. You talk about a force of nature, you're looking at him right there. And he came down like a sack of hammers with that leap of faith. You could break a body in half with that move.
Come on, JR. So Booker made some mistakes. So he spent a little time in jail. He did his time and paid his debt. Let it go.
Oh, you're full of it, King. These fans don't give a damn about Edge, because they know that Edge doesn't give a damn about them either. And that's a clever piece of strategy, King. He's isolating that one body part and working on it to weaken it.
I'll borrow one of your lines, King. All I'm saying is that if brains were dynamite, I don't think Nitro would have enough to blow his nose.
There's no doubt that Mickie James is an outstanding competitor, but she's got a head full of bad wiring or something. That's because they know they're about to see the greatest superstars in sports entertainment, King, the superstars of Raw. Not exactly the most technical of moves, but this isn't exactly shaping up to be one of those technical Mac classics either.
Mr. McMahon's obviously not the most technically gifted superstar we've ever seen. But the old Irishman is tough.
My God, what a sickening impact of flesh and bone against that steel cage. Straddling that ring rope has got to be just about the most uncomfortable thing a human being can endure. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Raw, live from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm Jim Ross, here with Jerry the King Lawler. The upside-down head scissors, an incredibly athletic signature move by this extremely talented diva. Good Lord, he's driving his opponent's head straight into the exposed steel of that turnbuckle.
Come on, JR. Haven't you ever heard of a fluke champion? Batista got lucky. You don't get into the Hall of Fame for being lucky. From time to time, Flair's a 16-time champion. And if any of those title reigns started with a clean victory, I'll eat my crown.
It doesn't appear that Edge is getting much love from this crowd tonight, and who can blame them? They're certainly not getting much from Edge. What a sadistic maneuver. Here's a superstar who will stop at nothing to pick up the win.
Well, I'm sorry you've decided to sympathize with the losers, JR. Me, I'm sticking with a winner. I'm sticking with Edge.
I've been one of Matt Hardy's biggest supporters since the early days of his career, and it's great to see him in action here tonight.
That's what makes JBL so great, JR. He never sits back and rests on his laurels. He's always setting his sights higher.
And there's no give to that table whatsoever. That skull will crack before the table does.
And he got it. What a finishing move. I don't know if his opponent can come back from that.
A big bienvenue to our fans around the world from Montreal, Quebec. Jim Ross here with Jerry the King Lawler.
I don't see why Candace agreed to this match, JR. She should join us on commentary. She could sit on my lap, and we could talk about the first thing that pops up.
So could I, King, but all good things must come to an end. Let's just hope it just doesn't end too soon. That's for sure. Tapping out is the last thing any superstar wants to do, but sometimes it's all you can do. You and half the fans in this arena, King. Melina certainly has no shortage of admirers, that's for sure. And now a blatant chokehold using the ring rope. This match can't go on much longer if he keeps this up. All of his body weight is forcing his opponent's throat down onto the unforgiving steel cable of the ring rope.
Me too. It almost makes it worth having to sit next to you and listen to those corny expressions of yours. What the heck is a government mule anyway?
Neither can I. So without further ado, let's show Boise why Raw is the greatest brand in sports entertainment.
Dreamer's not the most technical superstar, but he's incredibly tenacious. You got to be ready for the fight of your life against an opponent who will not back down.
I tell you what's cool, King, and that's the charisma and athletic ability of this second-generation superstar. I certainly do, and there it is, the figure four, often imitated but never duplicated.
Evil's just a word that losers like you use to describe people who'll do whatever it takes to win. I think Henry would take that as a compliment.
Well, that anaconda vice is a heck of a way to do it. Many a superstar has fallen victim to that one.
Oh, man. Well, that'll do it, JR. If he could keep focusing on his opponent's legs, they won't be good for much in this match.
You know, Shad and his Primetime partner, JTG, had a spotless record for their first several months on Raw.
No, I didn't, King. I had high expectations, and I'm happy to say that this match has exceeded them all.
Candace is one of my favorite WWE divas, JR. I loved her centerfold. It left absolutely nothing to the imagination.
Well, that's one way to do it, King. I don't think we're going to be seeing any youngins in this superstar's immediate future.
I'll never understand what the big deal is about Batista. He's just another superstar with more muscles than brains as far as I'm concerned. No kidding. He's just about as big and almost as strong. And the only difference is you can turn a bulldozer off if something goes wrong.
I don't think that's anyone's idea of a good time, King. The pain must be excruciating.
You know, King, CM Punk certainly has his fair share of fans, particularly of the female persuasion.
Okay. So he's got some amateur wrestling credentials. Big deal. This isn't the minor leagues, JR. This is the WWE.
Those repeated slams of the head into the table will have a profound effect on this match.
Melina's such an amazing young talent, and what a rack. What a great addition she would be to the Women's Championship picture.
Stitch as hell, that might mean the end of this match. He's risking serious injury by continuing to compete. You can fool some of the people all of the time, and all the people some of the time, but there's no fooling the WWE fans at all. Man, oh man, what a frog splash that was. That could be the decision maker in this match. They certainly are. I don't know how it's going to end, but I can guarantee you they're going to leave it all in the ring. Matt Hardy has said it many times. He will not die. And we're seeing that determination here tonight. I'll tell you what, King, the WWE Superstars are about the greatest athletes you'll find in any sport, period. No doubt about it, King. Trenton is fired up for the Raw Superstars, and I know they're going to return the favor here tonight.
Listen, every time Henry gets in that ring with someone, he's sending a message to the whole locker room. And that's what you've got to do to get ahead around here.
Well, King, there's an old saying, size doesn't matter. It's what you do with it that counts. And I'm sure you've heard that one before.
Bret Hart might well be the greatest technical superstar to ever compete in the WWE.
I disagree entirely, King. I'd bet my Oklahoma Sooner ass that this one isn't even close to being over.
Mr. McMahon is one of the greatest human beings it has ever been my privilege to know. What an incredible, inspirational figure he is.
And what goes up must come down. In this case, on that very thinly padded security barricade.
Looking at bodacious Tori Wilson reminds me of something an old buddy of mine used to say. She's got legs all the way up to her. He sure isn't. And that patented spinning toe hold of Terry Funk's might be the beginning of the end. Well, it sounds like someone's a little jealous. I'm sure you wouldn't mind nearly as much if they were shrieking at you. I wouldn't doubt it. Kenny's got decades of competition ahead of him, and he gets better with every match.
I know exactly what you mean. Anyone who gets into the ring with Foley expecting to face a friendly children's book author is in for a rude awakening.
Well, we haven't seen much of Ken Kennedy on Raw, King, and as far as I'm concerned, it can stay that way.
Like him or not, there's no denying the UK's William Regal's toughness, fire, and resiliency.
There's no rewards without risk, JR, and these are WWE superstars. They're not going to stop the match just because of a little blood. I can't remember the last time I saw superstars this fired up. I don't think they've even considered the possibility that they might not win this thing.
It sure is. The toughest athletes in the world are on the WWE roster, and that's a fact. Well, I don't think strategy is the word for it, King. This seems like plain and simple viciousness to me. This is Jim Ross here with Jerry the King Lawler, and we welcome you to live Raw action from Providence, Rhode Island.
I'm sure I'm not the only one in this arena who hopes to see the masterpiece learn a lesson in respect here tonight.
Of course he has, JR. He was a Raw superstar for a long time. He was used to a much higher standard of competition when he jumped to SmackDown.
My God, what a brutal assault. And yet, I have to admit, the strategy is sound.
Oh, man, he bounced his opponent's head right off of that barricade. And I don't know what those things are made of, but they're solid and they hurt.
No, but they spend their hard-earned dollars to watch what goes on inside it, and without them, we'd all be out of a job.
The world's most despicable billionaire just went south of the border with that one. But that could be all she wrote.
You know, despite the fact that he spent a lot of his career on SmackDown and in WCW, Gregory Helms has actually turned out okay.
Oh, that's a lovely image, King. I'd ask you where you come up with this stuff, but I don't think I want to know, quite frankly.
JR, do you think there's any chance we could convince Jonathan Coachman to stay here after we leave? He seems like he'd fit right in with all these politicians.
King, why do you say things like that when 9 times out of 10, they just make you look like a fool in retrospect?
Why would you want to do something like that to Mysterio, JR? Everyone on Raw is at least twice his size. They'd destroy him.
I cannot express how much admiration I have for Matt Hardy's never-say-die attitude. When you're the smaller competitor, that's exactly the kind of thing you need to do if you want to score the upset.
And he's held about half a dozen different titles over his career, JR. Say what you will about his attitude, but you can't argue with success.
Boy, you just never stop, do you, King? Personally, I'm looking forward to tonight's show. I think it's going to be a real barn burner. Well, judging from the shape I'm in, I don't appear to be doing too much of either, King. You're looking pretty fit, though, I must say. Man alive! What a knife-edge chop! A few of those will take the fight right out of you.
I think they're going to try to gut it out, JR, but guts will only get you so far. Sometimes it's just not physically possible to keep going.
His opponent is helpless. and he's laying in those closed fist punches all the way from Idaho.
Boy, this John Cena is his own biggest fan. How come all of these rappers can't talk about anything except how great they are?
You're not wrong, King. The Bay Area's always been a hot spot for the superstars of Raw, and tonight is no exception. That's for sure, King. These superstars will stop at nothing to obliterate each other right here tonight. It looks as if Finley may have left his leprechaun at home tonight, and I, for one, am happy about that.
Hold on a second, JR. Every time I've heard you mention Nitro in the past, you've complained about him. You can't have it both ways.
You got that right. Legend is a word that gets thrown around a little too freely sometimes, but the Funker is the very definition of it.
What have you got against Nitro, JR? He's young, he's talented, he's good looking? Oh, wait, I think I just answered my own question. Oh, don't forget it, JR. He's Mr. McMahon's son. That's a heck of a reputation to live up to. You can't do anything halfway.
Well, King, I'm no doctor, but as far as I can tell, Mickey James is a complete psycho.
He sure is. I can't even begin to imagine where they found a monster like the Great Khali.
And that just goes to show the lengths of which these superstars will go in order to pick up a victory right here tonight.
You can look at any professional sport you want, JR, and you won't find more incredible athletes than the WWE superstars. You're darn right it's serious, JR. It's deadly serious. All's fair in love and war, and this is definitely a war.
Welcome to Raw, coming to you from the land of the Razorbacks, Little Rock, Arkansas. Jim Ross here with Jerry the King Lawler. How about the fact that he's a 3-time National Wrestling Champion, or the fact that he's a 4-time Wrestling All-American, or
Big Shad's an extremely charismatic and talented competitor. I don't see any negatives to him whatsoever.
What are you talking about, JR? That's just a nasty rumor spread by people who wanted to be in Edge's league but couldn't keep up with him.
Ladies and gentlemen, Raw is live tonight from St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm Jim Ross, here with Jerry the King Lawler. This Lashley is so young and so impressive. I can only imagine the career he's got ahead of him. You know, the announcers never mess with the ring. You'd think these superstars could return the courtesy.
Ha! I know this kind of thing makes you squeamish, JR, but I love it when a superstar uses the ring itself against his opponent.
This CM Punk might be young, but he's got more raw talent than superstars twice his age. He does indeed. The alpha male leaves a trail of broken bodies wherever he goes. Kenny's a gifted young superstar, that's for sure. But I'd sure like to see a little more respect for the rules.
I tell you what, folks, quite honestly, I don't have the words to describe what we just saw here tonight in this buried alive match.
Hope all you want, JR, but you know I'm right. Triple H has accomplished too much in his career to be called anything but a legend.
It doesn't matter who Umaga's in the ring against or how I feel about them personally, I pity them. My God, that's a truly sickening impact. We may need to get some medical attention out here.
Michelle McCool is one of WWE's hottest divas, but her attitude leaves me a little chilly.
You know, King, I'm not sure that Candace is all there most of the time. She seems a little, well, spacey to me.
Look at the fire in the eyes of the Great Khali. He's here to deliver a slobber knocker.
I'll admit it, it's a little scary to watch up close, but I love watching Kane go to work. He's practically unstoppable. Nitro's not worried about impressing the fans, JR. He doesn't need to try. Have you ever seen him outside the ring without a beautiful woman on his arm?
He sure did, King. He was like a surgeon in there, focusing on that one injured area with precision. Good Lord, what a knife-edge chop. You could hear it echoing off the walls of this arena. This is Raw action at its finest. That's why Raw is the #1 brand of sports entertainment. I don't think he gives a damn, King. I think a fine is just about the last thing on his mind right now. Oh my, hanging off the ring apron is not where you want to be at this point in the match. It's a vicious, sadistic, brutal technique, but there's no questioning its effectiveness.
How can these fans be this excited about Rey Mysterio, JR? He's so tiny that half of them probably can't even see him in the ring.
They sure are, and they're doing it all for the WWE fans. Without them, there'd be no WWE.
How do you approach a match with someone like the 7'3", 420-pound Great Khali?
Of course it's personal, JR. Anytime you step into the ring with someone who wants to beat you down in order to win the match, it's personal.
You might finally have a point there. It's hard to plan your next move when you're too angry to think clearly. I just think this kid's got so much potential that he shouldn't need to fall back on cheating to advance his career. We're seeing another phenomenal performance here by the straight-edge extremist CM Punk.
Oh boy, of all the things that can happen to you in a ring, that's got to be one of the most painful. What are you talking about, King? I think this is still an extremely competitive match that could go either way. You sure aren't, and that's only one of the many reasons I try to stay out of the ring whenever possible.
How do you even prepare to enter into a match against a middle-aged and crazy Terry Funk? What a pile driver by Bret the Hitman Hart! That may have knocked his opponent out cold.
I wouldn't bet against it, King. I know what's on the schedule, and let me just say that these fans have hit the jackpot tonight. I couldn't even begin to guess, King. That's why they say anything can happen here in the WWE. I think these superstars are putting on one hell of an exhibition here tonight, King. I can't wait to see what happens next. The very sight of Kane makes my blood run cold. What an inhuman monster he is.
Oh my gosh! Look at the way that knee bounced right off that ring post. There's no give to that post at all. It's solid steel.
Calgary's Bret Hart calls himself the excellence of execution, and it's not hard to see why. Very few superstars have the physical and mental gifts possessed by Elijah Burke.
Randy Orton is a genius, JR. As soon as he got what he needed from Triple H and Ric Flair, he turned on him and struck out on his own.
Michaels has impressed me more times than I can count, King. Even you have to admit that he's done a lot for this business.
It's not the fanciest move, JR, but driving your opponent's head into an exposed turnbuckle like that sure does take the fight out of him. I don't get it, JR. Whenever most superstars cheat, you're all over them. But whenever Flair does it, you turn a blind eye.
That size 14 connects, and Snitsky might have knocked his opponent out colder than a wedge.
You know, JR, usually when you say things like that, they sound silly. But I can't think of a better way to put it. What a match! Yeah, or the meaning of the words, call me back when you get this. I must have left a dozen messages for her in the past couple of days.
No doubt about that, King. These superstars are going to leave it all in the ring. You can count on that.
He's quite the entrepreneur, no doubt about it. To JTG, it's all about the money.
It's been said a million times, but I'll say it again. This isn't ballet. Ruthless aggression is the name of the game.
Listen, mister, Ashley's more than just another pretty face, but she certainly is a beautiful young diva.
That's not what they signed up for, King. And quite frankly, I think these fans would be disappointed if they didn't go all out.
Well, all's fair in love and war, JR. But after this, I don't think there's going to be a lot of loving in this superstar's future.
It's his signature Samoan drop, and it's the beginning of the end for many an opponent.
There's no doubt in my mind that Mark Henry really is the world's strongest man. The power of this guy is absolutely incredible.
Well, my tastes happen to run toward the traditional as well, but I have tremendous respect for Sabu.
I don't even want to guess, King, because it looks to me like Umaga's got a hungry eye on his opponent.
Now that's extremely disrespectful, not just to the WWE fans, but to the Sandman as well.
Folks, I've got to apologize for the King. I don't know what's gotten into him, but I bet it came in a little blue pill. I don't think you'll have to use much imagination, King. I think they intend to show you right here tonight. That's for sure. No matter how beat up you are, you can't ever let your opponent know the extent of your injuries.
I don't blame you, quite frankly. He's a dangerous, unpredictable man, as his opponents can attest.
And I hope they've got the good sense to keep their distance. These superstars are out of control.
WWE's traveled to just about every country, and Jeff Hardy's got fans in every single one. And that's what makes old Terry Funk so dangerous. However far you're willing to go, he'll go farther.
Ladies and gentlemen, Raw has come home for one of the biggest events of the year, live in the heart of New York City.
We're not talking about running a ball down a field or slapping a puck into a net. This is serious physical competition.
You might be right, King. Good thing we've got extra security on hand here tonight. This crowd is ready for action.
Well, The Undertaker might have had a pretty good ride, but I think it's only a matter of time before someone buries the dead man.
And considering that the Great One's a third-generation superstar, that comes as no surprise. Ashley is one of the most beautiful and athletic divas it has ever been my privilege to watch.
Look at these fans, JR. If that isn't proof that Raw is the dominant brand of sports entertainment in the world, I don't know what is. Oh my gosh, that's just wrong, JR. I don't even want to think about how much that must hurt. Oh man, he always wanted to be a classical musician, JR, and that was his rendition of the Nutcracker Suite.
It certainly isn't, and when flesh and bone meet steel, you can guess which one wins. These Little Rock fans know that Raw never disappoints, and tonight is no exception. I can't wait to get started.
A swanton bomb, that is, and he may have detonated his opponent's hopes for victory with that one.
I have to admit it, JR, I'm a huge fan of William Regal's. He's been in this business a long time, and he's never lost his edge.
You're absolutely right about that. That's a huge win for this absolutely dominating superstar.
I've never questioned JBL's ability. Tactics, maybe, but never his ability.
I'm sure they haven't. That's not the kind of attitude you come in with and expect to pick up the win.
And that's why Bret Hart is one of the WWE's most respected Hall of Famers.
And if they're smart, they'll listen. Remember, without these fans, these superstars are out of a job. And marriage is a subject which you happen to be something of an authority. Isn't that right, King? I'd like to think there's a little bit more to it than that, King. These are professional athletes, not street thugs. He's got his opponent trapped in the turnbuckle, and these punches will certainly take their toll. My God, a vicious slam of that knee into the unforgiving steel of the ring post. I don't think I've ever seen a superstar stay one step ahead of his opponents the way the Rowdy one can.
Can you believe how loud these fans are, JR? They know they're about to see the greatest superstars in sports entertainment.
I remember a similar match, but I can't remember how it ends. But I'm pretty sure JBL wins, though. He usually does, you know.
My God, look at the intensity of these superstars battling 15 feet above the ring. My, what a generous offer, King. And to think, some people say you're not a gentleman. I can't think of anywhere else, King, but I'm afraid I don't share your enthusiasm for this kind of brutality.
Well, part of the problem is that there aren't any guys like him. All you can do is just keep moving and don't let him get his hands on you.
Absolutely not. Even these trained professionals wind up pretty badly banged up after a match. Boy, I don't know what Mickie James' problem is, but this girl is goofy as a pet coon, no doubt about it. I don't think it matters, King, not when you've got superstars like these intent on destroying each other. And a vicious slam to the head straight into that unforgiving steel cage.
Everyone says that Mickie James is supposed to be nuts. But tell me, JR, how could someone that crazy win the women's title?
The Sandman might not be to everyone's liking, but you have to respect the man's accomplishments in ECW. All I'm saying is if he's SmackDown's MVP, they're in serious trouble.
These fans love confidence in their superstars, and that's just what they're seeing from him here tonight.
The scariest thing about Snitsky isn't his size or his strength. It's the fact that he just doesn't care about anyone or anything.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Raw, live tonight from Las Vegas, Nevada. Jim Ross here with Jerry the King Lawler. Welcome to Raw, ladies and gentlemen. We are coming to you live tonight from Tar Helia, from Raleigh, North Carolina.
That's an easy claim to make, JR. Mysterio only weighs about 90 pounds soaking wet with a brick in each pocket.
You know, as hard as it might be to believe, I don't think they've ever actually been convicted of anything.
I think you hit the nail right on the head, King. And it's that unpredictability that makes it so exciting.
And he's not done yet. I don't think he wants to just beat his opponent, JR. I think he wants to cause a permanent injury here tonight.
We didn't have male cheerleaders in Oklahoma, King, but that 10-to-1 female-to-male ratio was pretty tempting.
And make no mistake about it, The Rock has not forgotten his millions and millions of WWE fans.
My God, the slobber-knocking impact of flesh and bones on those steel steps. I sure can. It's the most electrifying move in sports entertainment, the people's elbow.
I think you might be mistaken unless you're saying he came from the school of hard knocks.
Oh, there's no doubt about that, King. The Raw superstars are fired up. So let's get this show on the road.
And that's what you have to do to win a match like this, JR. You can't go easy on your opponent because you can be sure they won't go easy on you.
I have to admit, I'm a little shocked to hear you admit that Stone Cold was a better champion than you were.
Those 3 letters mean more to him than life itself. I might not respect the brand, but I respect Dreamer's dedication to it.
My God, the eerie sound of that human skull slamming off the announce table. I don't know what match you're watching, King, but the dead man looks as good tonight as when he first appeared in the WWE. He's got his opponent cornered in the turnbuckle. And look at those closed fist blows.
I can't imagine there are many things you could add Melina to that wouldn't make him better, JR. I can think of 1 or 2 right off the top of my head.
We sure do. That giant chop of Khali's has destroyed many a superstar.
I don't believe it. We might see a superstar get beat with their own finishing move here.
It's always great coming home to Memphis, JR, and I personally guarantee my hometown fans the show of a lifetime.
Listen, if you can sing it, you can bring it. The masterpiece has decimated some of the greatest superstars in the WWE.
He sure is, JR, and there it is, the Celtic Cross. You might as well ring the bell now. No one gets up from that.
A huge Samoan drop. And that might be the difference maker right there. JTG grew up on the mean streets of Brooklyn, New York, and this kid's got some hustle to it.
And that's the kind of move that'll have you reconsidering whether or not you're in the right business. All due respect to Piper, I can see why you might think that, King. He's unpredictable, to say the least.
Mr. McMahon has had his share of critics over the years, but as far as I'm concerned, they're all just a bunch of jealous losers.
There is no question in my mind that Ric Flair is one of the true legends of this business.
What a disgusting display. I guess a little sportsmanship was too much to ask for. I think you're right, King. I'd be surprised if that table's still standing at the end of this match.
I think it's a real shame how Tommy Dreamer has sacrificed himself over and over for a bingo hall operation like ECW.
They sure do. You almost forget about the years of training and sacrifice that went into their careers.
Absolutely not. Funk is a man who can recognize the slightest hint of weakness and use that to completely pick you apart.
I'll put it this way, old King of Memphis. If Bret Hart doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, nobody does.
Yeah, and that's where things get dangerous. If you're too proud to admit that it's not your night, you might wind up risking your career for a single match.
All right, I will. I think this one's got all the makings of a bona fide slobber knocker.
Look, anyone who gets in the ring with Mark Henry knows exactly what to expect. And if they're dumb enough to do it, that's their problem.
I love seeing The Rock on the silver screen, but it's even better to see him in the squared circle.
I'll tell you, JR, if I were a gambling man, I'd bet everything I own that this was going to be one of the best Raws ever. And this could also change the complexion of the face, JR. I don't even want to think about the bruises we'll see on this superstar tomorrow.
You've got to ask yourself, how much punishment will these superstars be able to withstand tonight?
I don't believe it. He just drove his opponents, right into that steel post.
Oh, for the love of God! He's choking the hell out of his opponent. That's just not right.
Come on. I bet you thought about being a male cheerleader for OU, waving those pom-poms and grinning like an idiot.
You know, I bet you could have been a straight A student if more of your teachers looked like Michelle McCool.
If you say so, JR. I still think Mysterio should hit the yellow brick road and get himself back to Munchkin Land.
Jim Ross here, and on behalf of me and Jerry the King Lawler, we welcome you to Raw Action live from Chicago.
Whoa! He just lifted and dropped his opponent right onto the barricade. And it didn't even look like he had to strain to do it.
There certainly isn't, King, and if he keeps driving his opponent's head into that exposed turnbuckle, there won't be. I don't think he's underestimating anyone, King. I think he's making it clear that he refuses to be intimidated. Let me tell you, I don't care how tough you are. A move like that will leave you gasping for breath.
Mick Foley's never been the most mentally stable superstar, but give the devil his due, he's a real hardcore legend.
Well, there's no question of that, King. These Montreal fans are ready to get started, and so am I. So what are we waiting for?
Oh, man! He might have shattered his opponent's knee on that ring post, JR. That's one way to bring a larger opponent down.
Let me tell you something, friends and neighbors. You never know who you're getting in the ring with when you compete against Mick Foley.
My face only gets red when I'm trying to keep myself from throttling you whenever you say something stupid, which, by the way, is pretty often. You're not kidding. He's right on at least 2 counts, and I might not be able to see the future, but I bet he's right on that one, too.
So do I, King. I'm not so sure their issues with each other are going to be solved with one match.
Primetime's big man Shad is looking to lift a victory right out of the pocket of his opponent here.
And that wasn't the end of it. Someone's voice just went up about 3 octaves.
He's not trying to get the crowd on his side, JR. He's letting everyone know that he's going to win this one, whether they like it or not. Look at this, JR. A stomp to the chest, and now it's knee first right into that solid steel ring post.
That's an understatement, King. This is a brutal foot choke using that ring rope. What a shot! You could hear the impact of that head hitting the barricade from here.
Yeah, well, we didn't need that kind of stuff in my day, JR. This is just garbage wrestling, plain and simple.
And those steps are solid steel. I can only imagine the damage they must be doing.
You never know what to expect. It's like he says, just when they think they've got all the answers, I change the questions.
My God, would you look at this? Grinding that ring rope right across the eyes. That might be true, King, but all I see is a very confident superstar who's got everything going his way. My God, he's using those steel ring steps as a weapon against his opponent. We certainly do. The double-arm suplex, and nobody does it better in my view. Yeah, and if I know you, King, you better keep them to yourself. This is a family program, you know.
Yeah, like slamming it right into that solid steel ring post. He's trying to pick apart his opponent a piece at a time.
Well, the referee had no choice. You can only stay outside the ring for so long before you're disqualified.
JBL's tactics, as you call them, led to him becoming the longest reigning WWE champion in Smackdown history.
I'm not sure his opponent would agree. That backcracker usually means the beginning of the end. Yeah, that's what they call him, and damned if I can find a better description. You don't want to get on this man's bad side.
And here I always thought MVP was a title that other people were supposed to give you.
There it is, the Batista Bomb. That's just raw animal power right there. I can't disagree. Getting a WWE superstar to quit a match is damn near impossible.
Have you got both your contacts in one eye, JR? There's no way The Undertaker's going to win this match. Just look at him. I'll tell you what, JR, I've been in some crazy matches in my time, but I've never been in anything crazier than that.
And that is not the position you want to be in when you're facing the doctor of thugonomics.
You know, JR, it's obvious that the only exercise you get is stretching the truth or jumping to conclusions.
Absolutely. But I just read them for the articles. And let me tell you, Tori's got some beautiful articles in there.
I can't argue with that, although I don't think it's his most admirable quality. What's the second thing?
Randy Orton's one of the most dangerous superstars in the WWE, JR. Ric Flair and Triple H taught him everything he knows.
Oh, this is just not right. Driving the head straight into the steel of the turnbuckle.
Sabu and all those other ECW superstars disgust me. They're not athletes. They're stuntmen.
It sure is, and it might also leave this superstar unable to finish this match.
Yeah, but the problem with being the biggest guy around is that there's always somebody bigger waiting to take you down a peg.
I cannot imagine a more grim fate for any superstar than to be buried alive.
This has been one heck of a match, JR, but I think the end is in sight. These superstars are running on fumes.
Well, that was before the invention of the electric light, so you probably just couldn't see them very well.
He's an absolute phenomenon. I don't think this business has ever seen a bigger superstar than Stone Cold.
That's for sure, King. There's not another brand of sports entertainment out there that can compare with Raw.
Well, I was going to say hardcore and passionate, but I know you have your own view of ECW.
It looks like we're due for some old school slobber knocker brutality here, King.
Come on, JR. This isn't something you do when you're worried about the outcome of the match. He knows he's got it in the bag.
Well, the uneducated say that everything's bigger in Texas, and I reckon that pile driver might prove it.
Elijah Burke had 102 knockouts as a boxer before he came to WWE. 102!
Okay, I won't, but that mandible claw is locked in. What an excruciating maneuver. Yeah, there aren't too many superstars who have managed to give the boss a stunner and keep their job.
Sandman's got this reputation as a dangerous competitor, but if you take that Singapore cane away from him, he's nothing.
And let me tell you, folks, there's not a damn bit of give to that security barrier.
I sure do. The guillotine leg drop. That could be the difference maker in this match.
And eyes, for that matter. That move can temporarily blind your opponent if they're not lucky.
No kidding. When the referee has to stop the fight because one superstar can't continue, there's no question who won. Boy, if there's ever been a better role model for our younger WWE fans than Booker T, I couldn't tell you who it could be. I don't understand why you like Carlito so much, JR. What, did he lie to you and tell you that you were cool or something?
Would you look at that? A blatantly illegal maneuver. That should be a disqualification. And that's one of the most devastating moves in the business. You can crush a person's throat with that move.
I'll be the first to admit that the Nature Boy's taken some liberties with the rules from time to time.
What do you mean just about, JR? Can you actually think of anywhere else that you can see athletes of this caliber?
Well, the masterpiece is a piece of something, all right, but I'm not sure art's the word I'd choose.
It means we just saw one hellacious match, King. I hope we get to see them lock up again soon. The Celtic Cross, a devastating signature move to be sure, but is it enough? A kick to the chest, and it doesn't look as if he's done yet. What's he up to?
Look, I don't know art, but I know what I don't like, and I don't like Master's arrogance.
His opponent is in the turnbuckle, and the closed fist punches come raining down.
And if you ask me, Sabu's the epitome of ECW. An ugly, scarred-up misfit.
Good old JR Jim Ross here with Jerry the King Lawler, welcoming you to Raw live from Los Angeles, California. I do indeed, and there it is. The STF, expertly executed. We've got to be nearing the end, King. I don't know how much these superstars have to give.
I hate to admit it, but when I look at superstars like the Great Khali, part of me is glad I don't wrestle that much anymore.
I think you're right, King. These superstars seem intent on taking each other to the limit.